Nation. We are back. I'm here.
How y'all doing?
Kevin is here.
I'm here.
We also have some wonderful guests that we'll get to in a second. So you will not remember, because in a parallel universe, Kevin and I had an amazing interview with 3 young high school scholars discussing what they thought remote learning would be like. What we realized is that planet where we released that episode is not this one. Kev, what'd you think about?
Why are you going ahead and giving away all the secrets? Why are you letting people know we messed up?
Oh, maybe should I not do that?
They didn't have to know that part.
Okay.
And then it would have just gone. They would have been like, "Wow, that was a really good episode." It seemed like it was real well prepared, rehearsed, and then they would have never known. Like in the documentary, it would have been like that episode. True story. It was a great episode. We had done it one time before.
It is cutting edge. But
we messed it all up.
But here's what we can actually do because of the wonder of technology is we can actually restart right now, and then I'll just crop it when we upload it.
Yeah. Make sure.
All right. So 1 minute and 20 seconds. All right. And 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's good, Two Dope Nation? We are back.
We leave that part.
Wait, what? Oh, you want to leave in that part? We're off to a flying start right now. Kevin is second guessing me, as always, and I'm just trying to be the best podcaster I can be. I don't know what to do these days. What's up? It's 2 Dope Teachers and a Mic. I'm Gerardo Munoz.
It's your boy, Kevin Adams.
And we are back here on a sunny Thursday afternoon after 4 days of remote learning. And we are back with some amazing young people who are going to talk to us a little bit about their experiences with remote learning. Kev, you cleaned out your classroom. How'd that go?
It happened. So
it did.
That was good. It wasn't too bad. It was fairly efficient this time because I wasn't like stopping in to talk to people like I normally would at the end of the year.
Yep.
And chat with people. Yes, social distancing. And it was nice to see some people that I've only had the pleasure of looking at through a computer screen to see part of their face. Like it was hard because you still couldn't see their whole face. But, like the top of their face looked the same for the most part.
What I'm realizing is it's hard to tell when people are smiling, right? Like, so like I'll be like at the store and there's like I had to go pick up groceries this morning. And I'm there and, shout out to grocery store workers who are out there keeping shelves stocked and putting themselves at risk every day. Like mad respect to y'all. I would be like I have anxiety, so I would be freaking out every single day if I was working that job. So shout out to them. But so I'll like smile and then I realize that, my face is covered. So literally all they see is me staring at them.
That's right. That's right.
So that just doesn't seem like the move, right? It's good stuff. So, there's been a lot, So Kevin, are you familiar with this remote learning thing that's happening?
I'm an expert on remote learning. As you said, we are.
I don't know how.
Day 4 of week 3. So I've become an expert. Yeah. I'm a quick study.
We're so good at this job. Like, just throw whatever at what's the lyric from Diamonds from Sierra Leone? I had to leave the boat so I could walk on water, right?
Yeah.
Difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. And after 3 weeks, man, we run this. So as I understand, remote learning isn't just us sitting behind a screen and putting stuff out there. Like, that, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's not just that. I would hope not.
Like, I think that there's students who are affected, but you see where I'm going with this? You got to go with me with this buildup.
Where I was like, where is he going with this? No, yes. Remote learning doesn't just involve teachers.
It doesn't.
It also involves students.
It does. Like, pretty directly. And students are being asked to deal with some things.
Yeah. Who wasn't at the table?
Who wasn't at
the table when we were planning all this remote learning stuff?
Wait. I know this. Yes, that's what I was going to say. Students were not invited to participate in like the design of remote learning. And we're going to, so I think that this is yet another place where decisions are being made for students, not necessarily by students. So we had this revolutionary idea. We
What's
should
that?
talk to them. We should talk to them. We should ask them, hey, so like, how's this going? Like, are there things you like about it, or are there things that you don't like? And to do that, we have brought three of the most fantastic scholars that we know. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves in alphabetical order?
Oh.
So we have Amy, Kyrie, and Esme. So yeah, who wants to introduce themselves first? So who are you? What do you want us to know about you? And that just is by way of an intro.
Wait, so is that me first?
Yes. Amy, I would say so. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, my bad.
It's all good.
Well, okay. I'm Amy. I'm in 10th grade. I go to DCIS at Baker. What else am I supposed to say?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, that's about it.
Who's next, alphabetically speaking?
I'm Esmeralda. I also go to DCIS at Baker, and I am also a sophomore.
All right. And that leaves, last but certainly not least,
I am Kyrie. I am in 9th grade, and yeah.
Excellent. All right. So you all have been in a remote learning situation for maybe about as long as we have been. How has this experience been for you all?
I would. Finding an order is hard.
Yes.
I will go ahead and go. I definitely think it's been a adjustment. And the first week and maybe the first part of the second week was really like a shift. It was kind of a struggle just getting adjusted to all the new things. But I think now that we're starting to get into the later half, I think it's slowly become like everything's become more fine tuned and been more polished and things like that.
Yeah. Others, has that been your kind of experience as well?
For me, I think I'd have to say like it's pretty much the same. Although I think the only thing different for me is that my second week was also still kind of an adjustment because the first week some teachers just like got it off the bat and it was like really great. And they like fine-tuned things as we went, but some teachers just had a really bad first week and they got it the second week and it was easier to adjust to what they were going to do. So I think it was more of an adjustment, I think, the last 2 weeks for me. But this week it's gone with flying colors. I think I'm getting more used to it. I'm not too happy with it still, but I'm getting more used to it.
So when you talk about some of the difficulties that some of your teachers had, what would one of those what are you thinking of?
So one of my teachers was just like completely, in my opinion, and I'm, as you know, Munoz, I express my opinion a lot. Was very
yes.
Discombobulated.
That's a great word.
And then on the first Friday, they were like, okay, like any feedback? And I told them straight up, like, this was such a bad week for me. Like, I did not understand. I'm sure, excuse me, like I'm already failing your class. Like, it was very confusing. I couldn't find all of my materials. And I think I would just like some more one-on-one time. And it worked like magic. The second week started checking in with me right away. Hey, Esme, how are you holding in? Like, do you need help? Do you think there's something that I could go over, explain? Is there something I need to send a reminder about? Which I found was very helpful for me. So I think the whole like discombobulation and also just the fact that it's remote learning, so it must have been a difficult first week for even our teachers. I definitely understand that. But it was so good to me that she took into consideration what I was trying to tell her.
Yeah. Amy, how about you?
I would say on my part, it wasn't awful, but it's also not great. And I really do prefer doing things in person. But I know that this is like the best way that we can do it right now. The thing that kind of did just really like irritate me though, you guys had already touched on this earlier, but the fact that they didn't even ask us for our opinions or like what ways would be more engaging for us. I think that's what really like made me upset because like a lot, even like they say the teachers know the best, and I understand. Like I have so much respect for the teachers just because of like how hard it is to adjust to this too for them, and like having to adapt to every single student. But a lot of them overlap their classes, at least for me. So that was really insane because like I had two classes going on at the same time for like 3 days. So I would have one on my
Oh
phone and one
man.
on my computer. So that was kind of a mess for me. And I would say for the most part, it's going pretty okay because everybody's finally adjusting to it. And that includes both teachers and students. The only thing I would say though is the workload that a lot of them have left us is like really high. And the bad part is that there's no way we can do it like on paper or anything. So it all has to be done by like computer or like by your phone. And then like, at least in my case, like my parents would kind of get upset and they're like, oh, well, it's like you're always on that computer. What are you even doing all the time anyways? And I'm just like, well, kind of have no choice here, but
yeah.
I got a question. So I kind of have an idea about the structure for my students at our school. And Kyrie, I'm wondering, what it is because you're in a different district than we are. But and maybe start with you, Kyrie. What does your schedule look like each day?
So when you say that, do you mean like the personal schedule that I have laid out, or do you mean the schedule that the teachers have tried to make for me?
Well, I'd love to hear both, but start first with the schedule that the teachers kind of gave you, and then
like
kind
the
of how
you
navigate that. How have you adapted that to your life, and kind of what works best for you? Because I think that's helpful for teachers to hear.
So I will say that my teachers specifically, I know some other teachers at my school have not done as well with this, but I know a lot of my teachers have been pretty freeform with the way that they allow you to do your assignments, which I think is really nice. The thing that does make it a little bit odd is the communication windows get really hard. So like if you have a question, then it gets really hard because you've got to find when you have to do the assignment and when to line it up with their communication windows and this and this and this. But I definitely do think that with a few exceptions, the majority of the teachers have found a pretty good schedule that at least helps the students get around their schedule.
So at your school, you don't have to be like, we know like at some schools I've heard like they're like, you are in period 1 online from 8 to 9, and you're in period 2 online from 9 to 10, all the way through the day like a normal school day would be. Your school, it doesn't sound like, is doing it that way.
Yeah, our school is not really doing that. It's essentially just they give us, specifically the way they do it, the majority of the teachers, they give us a folder and with a whole bunch of assignments and guides and things, and they say, this is what you do this week. Go do it. Which...
Literally. This is what we're
exactly.
getting. Okay.
Highly engaging.
And that's the double-edged sword of it. Because on one hand, it's like I appreciate the free-form nature. I appreciate the ability to work at my own pace. But on the other hand, that makes communication and engagement with the teachers almost impossible.
Yeah. So that's interesting because I think what I've seen just in talking to other teachers is that there is such a spectrum in how schools are rolling this out, both from the district level and in the individual classroom level. Like my kid at her school is expected to be in digital classrooms like every morning for 4 hours, right? And so what I've noticed is a lot of exhaustion on her part because you're just like literally having to stare at a screen for 4 hours. What you're saying, Kyrie, seems to be that maybe a little bit of streamlined communication would be okay with you, but that overall you do appreciate having the freedom and the flexibility to do things the way they work for you.
Yeah, I think I think a balance is important.
Yeah.
And how have you worked to find that balance, Kyrie? What have you kind of done? How have you navigated this system?
The best way I do it personally is I have to schedule myself. So I set times each day for myself when I have to work, which makes it a lot better because then it's like, okay, here's the window I need to work. Here's the next window I need to work. Here's the next window I need to work. And that works. And I keep saying with a few exceptions because there definitely are a few exceptions of the teachers who want you to work in specific times. And then I've got to work around that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. That's really interesting.
So Esme, Amy, like in terms of your kind of experience, like the four of us are at the same school building, but in terms of a daily schedule around your classes, how has that gone for you? Both the way that your classes have been. I mean, Amy, you hinted at it where you've had some collisions between classes, right? And that kind of thing. But how has scheduling just been for the two of you over these last few weeks?
Um, I could start. So the way the teachers, at least the 10th grade teachers, they laid it out for us. So they've been doing like one subject per day. But the thing is, it's like the whole 10th grade class is on that call. So it's not split up by like class periods like you would think it would be, but like
Mm-hmm.
all of us are on the call for the amount of time that the teachers want. And so for the most part, a lot of the teachers are doing like Google Meets and then they leave us assignments that are due by either Friday or Sunday. And then they have like office hours throughout the week. So there's that. I would say most for the most part that's how it really is. So, like one subject per day.
Yeah. Esme,
You know
but
if
what
Esma
about
wants,
you?
yeah.
What's your kind of take on that, Esme?
Well, I'm also a sophomore, so I'm also getting, the one subject a day along with the rest of GCIS. But I honestly like it, like in terms of I have all of my classes in a week, but I'm not like stressed with having to do more than one class a day. But it does stress
Mm-hmm.
me out the amount of work I get. Um, because I think I have never like worked and like studied so hard in my life. I swear, like the
Wow.
work I'm getting now is I feel like my teachers are pushing me and I love a good challenge. I love being pushed. My honors and my AP are for a reason. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it also sucks that I feel like in those classes I'm just completely overwhelmed and I can't it's not like I can just go up to my teacher and ask during class, "Hey, like I have a question," or "Hey, can you explain this?" because then it's an email and sometimes they don't email you back soon enough or sometimes you're just like confused all day. I mean, there's some assignments that I haven't been able to do because my teachers haven't contacted me back or they didn't contact me in time and then it was like past due. And then they're like explaining it to me and I'm like, "Okay, well, I still don't understand." So I mean, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the actual scheduling, I kind of like it. But the
Yeah.
whole workload and due dates, that's what I kind of find difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what I find myself wondering, and I teach 8th grade, but I just wonder about the workload and what is reasonable. But what type of work are you guys being asked to do? What does the work kind of look like, or what would you say most of it is, or is there kind of some similarities or things that you found more engaging or less engaging or more useful or less useful?
For me, I know that in my math class, I hated it the first week, but in math, she gives me a slide that I'm supposed to do all week. And particularly this week is like something that I really enjoyed because it's a project and I get to work all
Mm.
week on it and I get to take my time whenever I want to and she has her office hours throughout the week, which is also wonderful. And like for Munoz, he has his Google Meet and then we have office hours throughout the week where we can continue to ask questions, which I also find really helpful. Like, we have our DBQ set and we like talk about the DBQs, how it went, the topics, that. So I think that's really
I got to
helpful.
grade some
I'm
DBQs.
getting.
Just realized.
um, so I feel like most of my work I can work around, but there's some things that it's just really difficult, like chemistry. Like I have a quiz that's due and he wants us to do the Pogo, like, so like the sheet of questions, um, which sometimes I'm just like, this doesn't give me enough information and like I feel like I can't ask enough questions because then I'm like almost bothering my teacher. And I know that like they're always like, oh, okay, well it's my job, but it does get to a point I feel where we're afraid to continue asking questions because we're like, do they feel that they gave us enough information to complete this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
So
Kyrie,
in
what about
terms
you?
of yeah.
No, when it comes to all the different assignments, I think a lot of the teachers are sticking to a specific formula of giving us a bunch of small things and then just tying it together, or at least in my school, giving us a bunch of small things during a week, and then eventually it'll lead up to one big thing, like at the end of a certain period of time. Like, for example, my biology teacher gave us a bunch of small assignments and then gave us one big project at this week, which I think is a pretty good way of handling it. And I think all the teachers have started to get onto that. Some of the other teachers have exclusively been giving us big projects, which adds a whole lot to our workload and isn't really that phenomenal because they're just kind of these huge projects and they say get them done by the end of the week and they don't really give us any constraints or anything. So I don't think that's great. But I do think what I previously mentioned was good, was the small project leading up to a bigger project of sorts.
I like that.
So
you guys are giving me ideas.
Yeah, no, this is good. You're giving us some very good teacher education. The check is in the mail. So the theme that seems to be coming up is access to teacher support. What it sounds like is that the more consistent the support is that you get from teachers, the better your experience has been overall. And it's like that delicate balance of, let's give the students engaging work that they can do that will challenge them, but also that isn't so hard that we won't be able to provide the support for it. Amy, has that been your experience as well? Is it just like it varies by level of support that you're getting from teachers? And then I have a follow-up for everybody.
I would say for me, I kind of don't really like asking my teachers for help because I'm stubborn like that. But, so this support to me isn't the important part. I think it would be more like the kind of work they're giving. I feel like personally, half of the work that they have been giving me feels like busy work, if that makes any sense.
Can you say more about that? So what do you mean when you say busy work? Because we hear this a lot from students that they do feel that there are a lot of teachers who give a lot of busy work. Just in case somebody has never heard this term or maybe they misunderstand it as teachers, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I would say at least like right now with online schooling, I would say like they give us assignments. Like there's some teachers that have been giving us like 2 to 3 assignments per week. But like the thing is we never go back and actually talk about them. Or like they don't even tell us the importance of what the assignment was for. And to me it kind of feels like, oh, well I put like all my hard work into that and like I worked off for that and for nothing, for the teacher to not even go back and talk about it or like even tell us why it is important. Because it might just be me who likes to know why I'm learning what I'm learning. To know if it like it's important for future use, if that makes sense.
I feel like it's probably not just you, right? So what you're saying, so busy work isn't a matter of whether it's easy or hard. It's more of a matter of whether you see a point to it.
Yeah, and it's not even like a point to it. Like, yeah, it's cool to learn like random little facts, Guess you could just bring it up in a conversation. Mm-hmm. But the thing is like when it comes to prioritizing work, in my case, there's times where I don't know what to prioritize because teachers make it seem important. But then when you actually like log into your class, then it's like not important at all or like it didn't matter at all.
Interesting.
I agree with 100%.
Yeah, you want to say more about that?
Like, I feel like some of our classes in particular, like the ones that I know that I either share with Amy or that we have like, we're being taught relatively the exact same thing. I mean, granted, we have the same classes, like just different periods.
Right.
Knowing that we like have these classes together, I like totally see where she's coming from, where some of our teachers, are like, can you please have this done and this done and this done and this done? And then we're like, all right, we push ourselves and sometimes it takes a lot of time to complete what they ask. Because I think that sometimes they don't realize that also the timing for how much work they're giving us is actually a lot, especially for the kids who don't understand sometimes. Me being one of those kids. So like I totally get where she's coming from, where, sometimes it seems like we're learning all of this for no good reason, and it's just like to pass the year, to finish it off. But sometimes it's just really confusing because I'm like, okay, did I learn this for a reason? And then when it comes up like 2 seconds later, I'm like, wait, we never even talked about this. Like, was I right? Like, did I do it right?
Yeah. So I have a question, I think, for all three of you. And Kyrie, you can start us off on this one. So here's my question. I'm noticing from my perspective as a teacher that it's really easy to deceive myself into believing that I'm doing a great job, my students are doing a great job. Because you know what I mean? Because like you know, I don't have everybody engaging. And so when I have everybody engaging, it tends to be folks engaging who really want to do well, who are trying really hard to make this happen, like regardless. And if I give myself a moment and just go through my class rosters, I start looking, I'm like, dang, here's a student who hasn't turned anything in. Here's a student I haven't heard from like at all since, March 13th. So my question to you is, are there people in your social circles who are really, really struggling to kind of keep up and to be engaged in their work? And what is it that's causing those struggles? And Kyrie, do you want to start us off with that one?
Sure, I can start us off. I definitely think it is. I have seen some people who, for some classes where they're throwing out a lot of assignments, or whether they aren't or not, sometimes it's just harder for people to keep up. And I think the two things that really go into that are either whether or not they have the drive to do the assignments. Not even that a lot of people don't, but I think it's just hard when
like
you can't
personal
tell,
motivation.
Yep.
Exactly. It's hard to it's sometimes difficult to achieve that level of personal motivation. I also think some teachers have a really high workload or really low workload, which again goes back to that personal motivation thing. It's hard to get motivated when you know either the assignments are too little to really matter or the assignments are too much and it's just overwhelming. I think it's just the fact that a lot of times it can get overwhelming is the point that I'm getting to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Amy, how about you?
I would say personally, I do know a lot of people that are struggling with it, but it's more for personal reasons because it's either like them that they're mentally struggling right now because they don't feel like they have the capacity to deal with it because they're trying to focus on other things, or even like at home, like they have to help take care of their younger siblings or like they have to help out around the house and they just don't always have the time that like some of their classmates do. So like when they show up to class, they feel like pretty lost and like they're wondering like, oh, well, I can't speak up now because they're talking and then I'm not going to sound the same, if that makes any sense.
And I haven't
like,
been here and I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, like I've had a lot of people come to me about that and it's kind of like a hard situation to address, but you just have to find the right way with each thing, like each person.
When you say you have to find the right way, do you mean yourself as their peer or us as teachers?
I think both. So myself as a peer, like I have to find the right way to support them because if let's say like you're trying to like get them on track and like you keep bugging and bugging, then that can totally come off as that, oh, you're trying to just be their boss or like, oh, you're just trying to make them who you want them to be. So you have to like approach it in a different way and in a way that like helps them feel supported, not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then on the teacher half.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Go ahead on the teacher half. Sorry.
And then I would just say, like, on the teacher half, I just feel like a lot of teachers need to understand that not every student is the same. And I feel like this is like a controversial issue that has gone on forever and it still like isn't being addressed. But like, not every student is the same. Not all their circumstances are the same. And a lot of students like can't do work the same way that every single other one does. So when they're held to some like one of their peers' expectations, it really does bring them down.
That's a really important point. That's a really important point. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I go back and forth between this is totally different. This is not like anything we've ever done before, and yet what Amy you're suggesting to us is that actually there are some things that are not different. Understanding that every student can't be approached in exactly the same way. That some students have other obstacles to their engagement that others don't. That the way we approach them should be as personalized as possible. Esme, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. I think they covered it all. I also agree with Amy's. I think just a little bit more only because I feel like some teachers at GCIS in general are like, oh, I know my classroom with the back of my hand, and you may know the classroom, but you know, our classmates and us, like as your students, sometimes it's a little more difficult to know everyone. On that personal level, that's completely gonna make sense to like why something is helping us or it might not be helping us.
Yeah. Definitely. I had an interesting thing, and then Kev, you can ask your next question. But I had an interesting realization working with one of my sixth grade advisees. A number, and Amy and Esme, you know, some of my advisees, those silly little creatures who I adore. It was interesting because a lot of them kind of, Amy, like what you suggested early in the conversation, really miss seeing their friends and really miss just being in the room with folks. And so what some of them have been doing is they've actually been checking up on each other. Like they've actually been, hey, you know, I haven't seen, you know, Jose in any of our classes. Jose, why aren't you in class? And so it's been really amazing to see these 11, 12-year-olds like stepping up for each other. And it's teaching me a lot about their level of motivation and the power they actually have. Kev, did you have a thing you wanted to bring up?
I think there is a critical question on the table. And for Amy and Esme, I really want to know your opinion because this was announced for our school. I just get your perspective, and Kyrie as well, because I think as high schoolers, these are issues that matter to you guys, right? These are why teachers explains why teachers do some of the things they do, I think, or doesn't explain. I don't know. But grades. So, we've announced a policy. Our district has announced a policy for how grades, and credit will be dealt with for the year. And I'm just curious. Second policy, it's an evolving. It's a living document like the Constitution, right?
It's an evolving policy.
You kids can push it. You can make it however you want, right? But my question is what are your thoughts about grades and how are they doing at Kyrie at your school? And Amy and Esme, how do you feel about how they're doing at our school? And if it's not prying too much, what are you thinking about your possible decisions when it comes to grades?
So, and for those, I found out also that, does anybody have a guess as to which country downloads the Two Dope Teachers and a Mic podcast the most after the United States? Amy, do you have a guess?
Japan?
What did you say?
Japan?
Japan, you're right. You're absolutely right. So yeah, we global with this. So for those who are unfamiliar with any of what's happening in Denver, Colorado education, Denver Public Schools initially issued guidance that stated that all high school classes would be considered pass-fail, credit or no credit, and grades would not be a thing. And then they received what they described as feedback from what they described as the community, which they defined as some parents and students that kind of reversed course and said, actually, you like how we do data in this district? So basically what happened was they then came back and said, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to let students make the decision, not teachers, not parents, but let students make the decision as to whether they want to do their classes for credit or not. So, would love to hear Amy and Esme's thoughts on that. And then Kyrie would love to hear what's going on with grades, where you're at.
I personally did not hear one single thing about students giving their opinion on this. If not, this would have gone on a completely different track based off everybody we have. Everyone I've talked to is super confused and they don't actually understand what they're trying to get at with the whole credit or pass or fail thing, because it's worded very strangely, and the information we've been provided, we were told it once, at least I was, by my advisor, because he made a call with us last week.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's really confusing, and when I try to talk to a teacher about it, they kind of just explain it in the same exact way that it was written out in the form that.
That's a problem.
Here, we want to read it to you.
Isn't this part of our evaluation? It's are you able to explain things in more than one way? Yeah. So for you, there's been lots of confusion. Go ahead, Amy. Sorry.
I mean, that's mostly it. I think it's just been very confusing, and I don't understand it, and up to today, I still don't understand it after rereading the form like 3 times.
Wow.
So,
did we do a better job of explaining it?
It might just be me who doesn't understand it, but like the people I've talked to, like who have texted me and asked me about it,
that's
like,
Amy. This is important feedback because I was one of the people who was involved in crafting that letter. So I appreciate it. No, I was confused in writing it, or helping to write it. So.
Well, because then there's always
no. I mean, it's for you guys. It's for you guys, and I think if you don't understand it, that's a big problem. Especially if we're saying that you have the ability to make a decision based on what it says.
And I don't remember ever being asked my opinion on
it was a district policy, and then I think DCIS had an approach to how it was it would be rolled out. And,
Yeah, and I think, again, student voice, major point there from everyone.
Still a little behind on that.
Yeah. Esme, how about you? What's your... So, Amy, just really quick, yes or no, do you feel like you understand it now, or are you still confused?
Oh, I'm still confused.
Okay, cool. So just in a nutshell, essentially, you get to decide whether you want GPA points for your classes this semester or not. You'll get the credit either way, as long as you have like a passing grade. But it's up to you to decide whether you want a letter grade, which would contribute to your GPA, or just credits, which would not affect your GPA one way or the other. And so that's kind of how that is. So we'll come back to you on that one. Esme, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Kyrie.
I know for a fact that Amy is not the only student who is like definitely confused. Like, I mean, now I think I've understood it only because like I had to ask questions about that. Because when I first heard that it's pass or fail, I was so angry. I texted one of my teachers that I felt like I could vent to, and I was like, "Miss, you guys need to fix this like right now. I don't know what's going on, but like, please stop playing with me. Like, I really had a good GPA." And then she was like, "Oh, psych, you thought like it'll be fine, like you'll still get your credits." And I was like, okay. But then y'all switched it up on me again, and we're like, y'all can have your GPA back. And I was like, well, now I don't know if I want my GPA back, only because even though I think I'm getting more used to remote learning, I don't think that I'm gonna be
say this. I think it's really important.
It's gonna sound bad, but I don't think I'm ever gonna.
For real.
I don't think I'm ever gonna be as good of a student remote learning wise versus in person. Like, I just don't think I can get there. I think my like visual learning part of me is like completely like over and underwhelmed at the exact same time, because I don't feel like I'm getting enough visual learning. Some of my teachers are just like totally confusing me. Others are just like really lame. So like personally, I've been so like, I think this is a difficult decision for me because I don't want it to affect my GPA negatively.
Right.
And if I could just do pass failed, which would also be great. But there are some things that, I've applied for that I've tried to get done that do use my GPA.
Yep.
So like now I don't know where a lot of those things leave me, because, a lot of them haven't communicated to me. Like for example, my semester abroad, right now they're totally putting everything on stop because, they can't give out any more scholarships until they realize, is COVID going to be okay by the time that we're going to start school back up again? Like, can we even give you your scholarship that we were going to give you? Things like that. And my scholarship was based off of my GPA. So I think some of those things are really important to me. And obviously I want to continue to do those and have those as an option. But it's also really difficult to decide if I want to do that and risk like totally messing up and like having a bad GPA.
That's a really important point, Esme. And I think you nail it on the head. Can I be the best student possible when I'm learning from home? And I think you guys hit it up that we all know that each one of our homes are different, right? And not in a bad way, but our homes are different because we are all different people. We're raised in different places, different values. We think different things are important in our families, different ways of expressing ourselves and communicating with each other. And I think it's difficult unless we're going to say, we understand that you were learning in their classroom, which was your home, right? Your space. And so I really appreciate what you're saying. And the difficulty of making that decision when, there are things that are really important to you because you care about your grades and you want to have the best GPA, but you're kind of put in this position of like, now I have to choose, is it, what do I do? What do I do? Which one am I going to protect? My GPA? Because I know I might not be as strong as I would be normally. So it's just a tough position. And I'm just really bummed and wish the district had kind of stuck with credit, no credit, and not put these kind of decisions on students.
Kyrie, what does the grade situation look like where you are? You are not in Denver Public Schools. So what decisions were made there? And to Amy's point, Amy, that quote that you said is just echoing in my head. I don't remember being asked. Esme, your point, I'll never be as good at remote learning as I am at in-person learning.
Yep.
I hope these are quotes that people are framing and putting up on their classroom walls so they can remember. So Kyrie, what's going on with grades and what are your thoughts about those?
So I just want to, it's been really interesting listening to you guys talk about your system because
always is.
And here's why, because they gave us clarity, like they gave us a very clear explanation. What's happening right now is the way they're handling the system is our grades are staying like letter grades or staying as percentage grades, but across the district is what I'm assuming the way this is going is your grade cannot go down, it can only go up.
That's a policy in DPS, yep.
Yeah, I think DPS has said that also.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because like I've said when listening to you guys talk about your policy and explain it, they haven't given us really any clarity about the long run system. They've just said this is what's happening now, and they haven't given us for the anything for the end of the year or later what's going to be happening. A lot of my friends and myself included were fine with what's going on now, but we're all just kind of antsy because we're like they haven't told us absolutely anything about what's going to happen to our grades at the end of the year, whether or not they'll just bump back up to where they were when the semester started or what's going to happen. They haven't given us any clarity about that. So it's not necessarily that they've explained it poorly. They just haven't really explained it at all. Wait,
I guess a bad explanation would imply that there's been an explanation.
Precisely. Yeah, no, to give a bad explanation, there has to be an explanation in the first place. They have told us that your grades cannot go down, they can only go up, and that's pretty much all that we've gotten from the district, from the student level.
CCSD?
Yes, I am.
That's it.
Okay, but yeah, that's pretty much all the clarity we've gotten. So, yeah, that's literally it.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like, and I try to give people a break, right? Because like this is new to everybody. Like, I don't know, Kev, right. You didn't have a class in teacher school called How to Continue to Teach from a Computer during a global pandemic. Did you have that class
in there? No, I did not have that class. I didn't have a class called What do you do when your kids can't read? Which probably you think they would have that class, but they don't have that class, which I think was more reasonable than what to do when you're teaching from home during a pandemic. How are you culturally responsive when you're being beamed into someone's house?
Yeah.
Right. And let's be honest.
Right.
Media is not the most culturally responsive thing in the first place, right? Overall. So now you have teachers who weren't very culturally responsive, beamed, and we've talked about this, right, before at the beginning. All of this beaming into your house to, like, I guess, colonize your house from the inside.
Right. So like, I've got a question because, we on Two Dope Teachers and a Mic, we try to apply pessimism of the intellect and optimism of the will, right? So we're willing to call out flaws and problems, especially as they harm the people who need school to be done correctly the most, right? But we also try to look at, all right, so how do we start moving forward? So in a second, I want to ask you all to talk about, so what should we all learn collectively? I don't just mean students. I don't just mean teachers. I don't just mean parents, principals, district level administrators. As an ecosystem of schooling, what are some lessons that maybe we should be taking and keeping when we're back to in-person classes whenever that happens? So let that soak for a second. I have some data.
And that could be stuff that we were doing before
what should we
remote
stop
learning
doing,
too,
and
right? I always think that's
and what
important.
should we keep, and how should we grow from this? Yeah, no doubt. Like, yeah, it's kind of a question of like, what are the implications for this period for all of us trying to engage in schooling? What should we be learning?
I love data.
I have some data. You want to hear some data?
Yes.
We all like data. So I sent out a very simple Google form, and I hope that it made sense.
Yeah.
But it was basically letter grade or credit, and just asking students to
what
just
grade
fill
level
in
of student?
whether they want a letter grade or whether they
all?
are happy with the pass-fail credit. So
Okay.
This is grades. This is all of my high school students. So I have respondents from grades 9 through 12. I also have respondents, Amy will be one of these, who take more than one class from me. So, we can dig into that. But here's what I have so far. Currently, 37 respondents out of 100 students on my course load. 64.9% are preferring a letter grade to 35.1% looking for just pass-fail credit. So it's interesting because in a preliminary way, now I didn't ask for comments or additional explanation or anything like that, but in a preliminary way, what that says to me is that students are thinking seriously about this issue, which it doesn't mean that wanting a letter grade means that you're serious. What it means is that people care about this. I got like close to 40 respondents in the first hour that I put this survey up. And so to Esme's point, to Amy's point, to Kyrie's point, there seems to be real concern among students about what this means grade-wise for them. And it's a lot to ask of our students to, in the midst of a literal global pandemic,
in 2 years,
to be thinking about, hey, what do you think is going to be the best for your future right now?
Yeah, no, but I think that's important.
It's kind of
we have some time, and I think, Kyrie, you pointed out that we have some time before this all wraps up and it's all over. And I think we kind of did what we always do in education, where we rush, we see there's a problem, and we hurry and rapidly try to address the problem as quickly and as what we think is effectively and easily. Effective and easy are often, synonymous, right? But we try to do that. And in doing that, we ignore critical voices, right? And so what I hear from the students is, I was involved with a meeting with adults, and just for over 2 hours, actually 2 meetings, one that lasted 2 hours and another one that lasted almost an hour and a half, trying to wrap our heads around what does this all mean, and why would some kids choose letter grades over credit, no credit? Why would we use the terms pass, fail versus credit, no credit, and we talked about what Esme pointed out, for some kids, they're like, wait, I'm going to fail. I shouldn't fail. I've been working at this, right? And I think also looking at the issues of equity, how does this play out, right? I think we've gone to a situation where the school building is an equitable place where learning happens. It's an equitable learning environment for all of its problems. We try to make it as equitable each day. It's still not. When we've gone to remote learning, we've totally increased the equity. And for some people, their thought is increase the workload, give kids more to do. And, I just think we've got to figure this out in a way that makes sense with the kids, and help them understand, right? Credit means that you got through this, right? And it also tells me, Gerardo, when you talk about your kids wanting grades, it tells me that you have students that probably have relatively good grades, right? And those are probably relatively engaged students,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see because one of the concerns I have is that those who are able to pad their GPAs will, and those who are not able to pad their GPAs won't, and then we're going to see a GPA
play out for
gap.
colleges and universities?
That's kind of
everybody looking
concern.
at the year 2020 on a transcript, it's an asterisk year, right? They're going to know. They're going to be like this, and what was going on in 2020?
They're going to know.
The kid did take a dip,
they should
right?
Know.
What happened? Why are there so many kids that just have credits? And so I think this is a conversation that our kids need to be involved in to understand and really gain perspective around and be at the table in shaping the policy. But if not shaping the policy, because I think the way our district has set it up is they have the ability to make the decision about what their grades look like. But what does that mean and what's the benefit? I might have an A in my AP class, but I might have a D in that algebra class that I needed to be in and be with my teacher every day to really get that B that I had before. And so what's best for me, and if I got to make a decision, what benefits me the most? Because that's the goal, is for students to benefit. There, I'm done.
Yeah. There you go. And just as an aside, and then I want to hear, just sort of your feedback, students, about, how we should be proceeding. What should we be learning? What should we be moving past? What should we be moving into when we go back to school? Did you see the funny thing about, I don't know if you sent this to me, which would make this a really dumb question.
No, I haven't seen that. So
everything that went down with Philadelphia. So Amy, Esme, Kyrie, you would love this. So in Philadelphia, big city, a good amount of communities of color, good amount of people struggling through poverty and that kind of thing, not great internet access throughout their school system. They're doing remote learning. And you know what they told folks who didn't have good internet connections at their homes? They told them, well, if you sit in the parking lot of your school, you can usually get a signal.
That's amazing.
Huh?
So they're literally telling these young people who are doing their best to succeed, oh, if you can't get internet, just go sit in the parking lot. And the spaces are probably more than 6 feet apart. So you could probably just everyone sit in a space and do your work.
I mean, first of all,
there's so many layers to that.
It's brilliant. It's so brilliant. So I mean that's the thing. And of course, our friends at the Philadelphia Student Union had something to say about that. But it just goes to show that. Yeah. Definitely follow Philadelphia Student Union. They're dope. But yeah, so I've been like, hinting that we're going to let the students talk about this, and then I keep rambling. So, young people, what should schooling look like when we come out of this? What are the things that we've learned, and how do we use this to grow and get better at what we're doing in schools?
For me, I don't know which one of you guys mentioned it. I think it might have been Mr. Adams, who said that, you guys are really trying to focus as teachers to be culturally responsive. I think that is something that should definitely continue. Because I don't mean you guys specifically need to continue being culturally responsive, but teachers in general. There's new teachers, old teachers who, have been in there just a medium amount of time, but there's so many things going on in the students' world, and right now you guys are trying to have to take that into perspective, and you guys are trying to understand what is going on our side of the screen. And I think that's something that a lot of teachers should consider continuing when we go back into school, because regardless if we're in school or not, there are some people who, they go to school because they can be fed there. And there's some kids who right now they're struggling, So I think that's something that, should really continue, and something that maybe shouldn't is the lack of communication with students.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think because you guys see us in person, or you guys did at least, but because you guys see us in person, you guys are like, okay, well, you can come and talk to me in my classroom if you want to fix your grade. It's not my issue. But now as we see, there is some things how we can help each other, lean on each other, you know? Send me a reminder saying, hey, you know, this is missing. Maybe send it only to me once, you know? And then that's my warning. That's it. And if then I need to throw a fit, like if I throw a fit, then you have something, you know? Yeah, like I told you, you needed to come and do this. You could have made this up by this date. You know, I feel like communication should continue, or the lack of communication should stop and more communication should continue.
It's almost like the communication has been so rough over these 3 weeks that it's kind of bringing the communication between teachers and students and families, you know, to light a little bit more, where I can't just, you know, like I learned really quickly, if I tell my 6th grade advisee, hey, yeah, you have a question, come see me at lunch, they're going to forget the second they walk out of my classroom. Like, so how do we have communication that is effective and that kind of requires, like you said, leaning on each other, that requires us to team up on student achievement, not just leave student achievement on students to figure out. So, you know, I need to be open to communicate maybe more than just during my duty-free lunch, right? All right. Kyrie, Amy, who wants to go next?
I'll go ahead and go. And I was just going to say, honestly, she took the words right out of my mouth, because I think...
great minds think alike.
I think teachers and the counselor that I have attempting to be responsive to community is incredible. I think they're just they're trying to send out more emails. They're at least them making an effort is amazing, and I think that should carry over, because having that consistently, even in a regular school year, would be incredible. Because I think just having that consistently would change a lot of things for the better. Honestly, having student input or just the input of other people who you don't normally get the input from would make the year just better than it could be without. And then I definitely do think that the communication should, or the lack of communication should, have an attempt to go away as we slowly shift back eventually into normal school.
I really like what you said there, Kyrie, especially the point about making the effort and trying to be consistent. Like, and what I hear in that, and, you know, correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth. What I'm hearing from that is that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be flawless. There's going to be breakdowns in the communication just because we're humans. But it would be nice to see the effort, and it would be nice that there would be some consistent expectation of communication.
Right, exactly. As long as both sides are trying to make an active effort, then I think it doesn't have to be perfect, exactly like you said, but I do think as long as everyone's making the active effort, that's when it starts to improve.
All right. Amy.
I would really say they kind of said a lot of what I was planning on saying.
Dang, great minds do think alike.
The thing with mine is, I kind of took it in a different way also. I had that idea, but also, apart from just, being, aware that students have more of a life going on than just outside of school, that's my big thing. Right now, students are, struggling to just even, get work done while they're at home. What does that say about, when we go back to, or if we go back to, life, to normal, kids with extracurricular activities or kids who have, a bunch of clubs, how do we do it is my question.
Yeah.
Especially, right now, if we're struggling that much. And a lot of teachers aren't aware of that, and they, don't take that into consideration. And if they try to, tell the teacher, I've just been super busy, they're like, oh, well, that's not my fault. So I think that's another super important thing. Yeah. And I feel apart from that, I think you and I have actually talked about this, Munoz, is to not have school starting so early.
Man, I stand for that.
I don't even mean it in a selfish way, oh, I just want to sleep in more. But I mean, our brains, they've obviously been functioning better now that we've been starting later than, when we start, 7 in the morning.
Oh, man, I know. Yeah, and totally. It's not just how we feel in the morning. There's actually science that backs up a later school start. So that would be a lovely thing to add. Do y'all want to hear something really funny? So I just got a text from a friend who informed me. So you know how we're talking about these struggles with technology. I think you've talked about how some teachers are really good at this, some aren't, and it's just been really clunky. So here's word for word. Here's the text I received. In a district meeting about graduation with a bunch of central office people, they had to restart the Zoom meeting because they forgot to include the chat box. So like, it's amazing, like how this is all going. You know, and I think there's a measure of like, listen, we're all needing to, you know, open up our minds and realize that we have a lot to learn.
No, and I think we need to acknowledge all the learning too. There's been a steep learning curve. If we have kids that have learned to transition into remote learning and are doing all of this stuff, they're learning time management skills, like you guys mentioned, how to really manage yourselves. You know, I think we're learning a lot of different stuff about how we can approach school and freedom, and how we approach, you know, usable space. You know, how do we take this technology and create space where you guys can collaborate in a way that is responsive to you? You know, because I hear some things like Kyrie saying, you know, I appreciate the freedom to kind of choose my schedule, you know, and I know I have some 8th graders who are very productive at 1 o'clock in the morning. Not saying I want to stay at school till 1 o'clock in the morning, but creating different options for the way the time looks and the space looks, and you know how we navigate it. Maybe there, you know, I have a cousin who is a math teacher right now in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's how she operated all the way through college. I'm amazed that she could be a teacher, but she reverts to her vampire hours in the summer.
I know, it's wild.
Yes,
y'all, this was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to just talk with us today. As I think we've shared with you before, our listenership gets a spike when we have students that people really want to hear what you have to say. And, you know, I really hope that folks take all this into account. So we got a thing we need to do. We got to plug the show so that people can like follow us. And then so Ringer has a delay. And so, as you've probably noticed, so I think if we do stay dope in the round, right? So like one of us says it and then we go in order. So on my screen, I have Kev, and then I have Kyrie, and then I have Esme, and then I have Amy. If everyone just kind of, we can just like, but it's, what's that called, man? We can
when
like
we're talking about the computer, we don't mean delay. We call it latency in the industry.
Yeah, like in the round, we can layer it. So just
latency.
Yeah, oh, latency. Okay, all right. In the industry, because what? Oh man, hey. So thanks for downloading and listening. Or just downloading and subscribing. We don't actually care if you listen, because it's good for our numbers. No, listen, because especially these episodes where we have young scholars and our new leaders coming up, these are the conversations that Kevin and I both live for. So I want to thank Esme and Amy and Kyrie, for being so honest and being so open, and for being enthusiastic and positive, throughout this conversation. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at 2DopeTeachers. Kev, we are approaching 4,000 Twitter followers, which is extremely exciting. And guess what we need to shout out right now? We need to shout out the homeboy, Josan Perales, teacher up in a mountain school somewhere, he's created a 2Dope Nation playlist on Apple Music. Yeah, there's a 2Dope Nation playlist. You can find it on Apple Music. He is the curator. And he's designing us t-shirts. Yeah. So here's what's dope. He has a young student who is who's a street artist who has a lot of experience like with graffiti art. He is designing a 2Dope Nation t-shirt that people can wear to show that, unlike some places in the world, our borders are open, baby. Our borders are open. We extend. The only way to become a citizen of the 2Dope Nation is to say, I want to be a citizen of the 2Dope Nation, and we will take you in. Give us your culturally unresponsive. No, I was kidding. That's exciting, and we will be posting pictures as soon as we have that kind of stuff. So shout out to Josan. You are the man. It's dope. It's dope. You can also follow us on Facebook, 2Dope Teachers, or facebook.com/2DopeTeachers and a mic. You can also email us if you old school like that, 2DopeTeachers@gmail.com. So for Kevin Adams, for Kyrie, for
Stay dope.
Esme, for Amy. Want to invite you all in this quarantine to stay dope. Uh-oh, you got a breakdown. Kyrie, it's you.
Oh, stay dope.
Stay dope. Oh, stay dope.
Yes, this is great. That was awesome. Thank you all.
Oh, stay dope.
Yeah.